Did you fill up your car with petrol over the weekend?
No.
I did, and I noticed that Ben, it was rather cheap. This is something you're looking at this morning.
Yeah, good news for drivers for once. The fall in oil prices means good news for people at the pumps. Thanks very much. Yeah, morning to you. All of this started at the end of last week, as Dan touched on there. The price of a barrel of crude fell pretty sharply, so most of our supermarkets have cut their prices to match. So let me explain the numbers, because back in February, the price of a barrel of oil, that was around $56. Now that, though, has been falling. So from that 56 that you can see there, it's fallen to $48 a barrel a month. All of that, of course, translates through to cheaper petrol and diesel at the pumps. So, well, petrol was at £1.20, 120 pence per litre. That was back in February, but it's now fallen to 114 pence a litre. Diesel is also down from 123 pence back in February to an average of 115 pence a litre today. So we've touched on some of the reasons why, but let's talk it through with James Spencer, who runs the fuel supplier Portland Fuel. James, morning to you. So let's talk about why, first of all. I've touched on the fact that crude prices are down, so that means, frankly, the raw material is cheaper, so therefore the refined material, the petrol or the diesel, is cheaper too. And that's to do with America. Explain this for us.
Pretty much so. I mean, really, for the last 3 years, all roads have kind of led to shale oil, and that's what we've seen. So if you go back to 2014, shale oil, there was a glut of production from shale oil, and that pushed prices down. Prices really went heavily down, so actually they went down to about $25 a barrel. That was their low point. That was in January 2016. What then happened is the shale oil industry started basically to go bust, or at least they started to really...
Because it's quite expensive, shale oil, to get out of the ground.
Well, historically it's been expensive, but through innovation and a lot of technology, it's been becoming much cheaper to survive. And I think that's what's kind of confounded the industry, that the shale oil industry has found a level which previously people thought that they couldn't break even. They thought around $60 a barrel would be, they can't survive below that. In fact, it's proving to be more like around the $50 a barrel mark. So as the price ticked up, the shale oil industry just came back into the market, and that has created another supply glut, and that's pushed the prices down, which is what we've seen now.
And why do we see big differences in prices across the country? We talk in those numbers there about averages, but there are still big disparities.
There's big disparities in terms of the country. That's mostly to do with whether are supermarkets typically or big populations. The throughput in petrol stations is a lot quicker. So the prices reflect the wholesale prices much quicker, whereas if you're in a rural petrol station, you might still have stock that's brought into your tanks 2 weeks ago, and it just takes that much longer to churn through the tanks.
Whenever we talk about oil, we tend to talk about OPEC, of course, the cartel that's traditionally all of the countries that are based in the Middle East. They club together, they decide what price they want to sell it at. That power is waning now. They're not as strong as they once were.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, really, it's a big game changer. I think OPEC are collectively kind of scratching their heads, because everything they do is not having the effect they want. They announced these production cuts. They got Russia on board to do that. They announced an extension in May, and that's really barely passed off with a whimper on the markets, because the people holding the cards is the shale oil producers.
So in one word, which way next, up or down?
I think it's probably not going to go too much further down. I don't think it's going to rise rapidly, but I can't see it dropping too much more.
Okay. It wasn't one word, but I'll let you off. Sorry. James, thanks very much. James Spencer there from Portland Fuel. More from me after 7. See you then.
Will do indeed. Thank you very much, Ben. Thank you.